Hello there. It's episode 191. This week, it's about RADnesia comedies with Mike on Cup of Rad. Hey everybody, it's Mike, coming to you solo from the Cup of Rad studio, deep within the bowels of the giant palace that is Cup of Rad. Our tower is beaming out the crazy signs and signals from our brains. Starting off season 5 a little rocky, as you can tell, being that it's just me. Katie died, so her voice died. She's got a lovely cold that has KO'd her, and she's not really able to talk and or sustain a podcast. And we've been waiting to come back with you with a second episode, and unfortunately she hasn't been at her par. So hopefully she will be back next week, or she'll be back and I won't. So putting out that good vibrations to have a successful recovery. So hopefully you're all doing well out there in listener land. I got to do something amazing at my bartending gig. Justimus Prime came over and he said, guess what? Make me a drink. Make me whatever you want. Do what you want. So I took the liberty of doing that. And what I did was I took a couple of hot dogs and I sliced them to look like little octopuses. Cooked those up for him. I took tequila. I took lime. I put the octo dog in the beer, in the cup. And then I added some Kolsch and I added some Clamato juice. In that mixture as well, there was 10 Tabasco shots and some more Cheshire sauce. So it was, and I added a couple of olives and some pickles, and then dusted the top with some lovely pop rocks. So he had whatever kind of Kraken concoction it was, but at least at the end of the day, it made me laugh. It was a good time. It kind of like gave me that extra fuel to get through the day, which was pretty hilarious. So I was excited. The drink went down fairly well for him. And I know that if you want to try it, you'll have to ask for the Jesus Badsby. That's what we're calling it. It's the completely wrong version of the Michelada. Just like many get his name wrong. So with that, there was a local toy shop in the town that was closing down. I think I talked about it a few times. They had their final push to clear out some things, so we went and we checked that whole thing out. Marvel Legends had dropped down to $10. I was really excited to go check it out. I ended up grabbing an extra Cobra Trooper, which I took off the flak jacket. And it was nice to see how much articulation was actually in that figure. So he now no longer has a jacket. I was able to cut the belt and make it into still the holster. So that's on him. He might be my favorite trooper right now out of the 3 that I have. The Cobra Officer, I think, is still my favorite, though. I originally had hoped to snag a whole wave because he had a whole wave of the Age of Ultron figures. I was unlucky in snagging that, but I did still get the Age of not Ultron. I keep saying Ultron. Damn you, MCU. Your Age of Apocalypse. But I got the Magneto and the Rogue from that, and the Sabretooth, and those are really kind of cool figures. Interestingly enough, I did notice that those figures are a lot hollower plastic feeling than the Joes. I really do like the G.I. Joes. Hasbro's done a pretty good job with them. They do feel pretty solid and not nearly as gummy or hard plastic as some of the others. So what did we check out over these last little while? Well, I've been working and it hasn't been super fluid with the films and all that because we've had a bit of a heat wave, which just kind of throws things off and makes it a little bit more difficult to watch movies. But as we settle into our new rules, as fall comes in, we'll continue to make things happen. We did finally get the chance to check out the latest My Hero Academia film, World Heroes Missions. This here is the idea, and I believe it really felt like an X-Men movie. And I keep saying it, that My Hero is kind of like the better version of X-Men currently on the stands. There's less dramatic politics behind the scenes with it, and the story is just killer, especially for the manga and even the anime. The movie itself is the idea that there's a cult that wants to destroy everyone with a quirk. And they've been able to come up with these bombs that accelerate the quirks till those that have quirks, those superhero powers, basically explode, die, evaporate, all these things. It's pretty actually horrific scene when it happens. So when talking to Katie, she was talking about to me how much she actually really did love the film. She likes how the films really do stand on their own because she's been able to watch all three of the films with us. And she doesn't feel like she needs to read the manga or watch the anime to kind of get a gist of what's actually happening within them. One thing we both agreed on was the fact that the thing that's cool about Deku in this movie is that Deku really sets to inspire. He sets to kind of like Superman, or how Superman should be. That idea where he's there to show others that they can get better and be better than maybe what they think they can be. And he pushes through. It's the whole plus ultra idea that it's like you're pushing forward, you're pushing towards a goal. And in this case, it's to save the day. And he inspires someone that feels like they have a useless quirk to stand up and save the day, because otherwise the world would be decimated. Because 80% of the population in My Hero has a quirk, be it something that's actually useful or not. So imagine 80% of people just end up disappearing. It would decimate the idea. Katie really likes Bakugo, and it's hilarious because I did not like Bakugo at the beginning. As the manga continued on, and even like some of the stuff at the anime that was different from the manga, Bakugo has been a more interesting character. And we talk about the idea where he's so much of a harsh ass that kicks in, but he is still a hero. As much as he talks about murder and destruction and all this, he still comes down to being a hero. And seeing his battle with the crazy knife people was pretty intense, especially the amount of blood that comes spilling out of his body. So that was pretty fun to see. And the animation, this is on par to the anime. There was nothing really that stood out about it. There was a lot of flow motion feel with a lot of the battles, which was really cool to see. So, but as much as it did focus on sort of Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki, I did notice though that they promoted the hell out of it with these like black stealth suits for all of them. They brought out figures, they brought out all this stuff, and they only used those suits for literally 2 minutes of the movie. So I was a little disappointed by that, because there's this big push for these stealth looking, like really kind of sleek Tron-esque looking suits that they had with the all black with the accent colors of each of them, only to not use them at all, which was a big surprise. So besides that, I was a pretty solid movie for an anime film, and I'm really glad that we were able to snag it and watch it, because I do really love that world. As I said before, it really feels like it's a superior X-Men in a time where X-Men has really fallen for me interest-wise. So definitely worth checking out My Hero Academia World Heroes missions. So we got into a lot of these are RADnesias for me. So RADnesia for me, not so much for Katie. It was kind of an interesting poll to see what we could do, because we're looking for a bit shorter films to fill some of the time, because like the weeks have been going by really quick without being able to actually capture any films with them. So the one thing that we decided to check out, and this one here, she finally agreed to watch it only because within the Dave Grohl autobiography, he had said this is one of his favorite movies. So when he said that, then suddenly Katie was like, we're going to watch this. This one here came from 1997. It starred Matthew Broderick, Jim Carrey. It was directed by Ben Stiller. The Cable Guy. Cable Guy tells the story of a dude that goes to get cable and awkwardly befriends his cable guy, only to find out that the man does not actually work for the cable company, and he is a menace to society. That's probably my best description of it. it's a very dark, bleak comedy, and it had Jim Carrey playing a role that was not as likable or as fun as his previous roles within like The Mask, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, even around the time of, say, Batman Forever, Riddler. So what did we think of this? You know what? This is actually probably one of Jim Carrey's least problematic movies from his older years, because as I watch his older movies with a different lens, I see a lot more of the humor, the outdated humor. This I could still find some humor in it because of the awkwardness that came from it, and the longingness to belong and want to. Whereas we live in a world that we are completely enclosed by our social medias and our television watching, and we almost try to live the lives of those that we watch versus actually living our own life. And that's one of the key moments of the whole movie is living outside of the cable bubble. So now that would be like satellite bubble, because not many people are streaming bubble, right? Now, one thing with this that we were talking about, Katie and I, was the fact that you're a bit conflicted with the film because you're not really sure who to cheer for, because there's not necessarily a clear protagonist. Matthew Broderick plays an asshole in reality. He's in it all for himself. He's very selfish. He just kind of wants to, get the cable and get the girl back that he's, no longer with. And he uses Jim Carrey's chip to get what he needs, takes the advice, but the moment that Carrey's cable guy pushes back and starts asking things of Broderick, he panics and suddenly they're not friends. And it becomes a very frustrating point in the whole film. So when Carrey goes off the rails, it makes it you almost want to cheer for him because you kind of want to see Broderick fail. But when Broderick starts tumbling down the rabbit hole of his paranoia and starts like blaming Chip for all his problems, then you kind of feel for him, because then Chip starts showing his darker side, which is very interesting. The one thing I thought was interesting too was the fact that within it, there's this whole story about twin brothers, and one brother murdered the other brother. And it reminded me of Kyle Mooney's Netflix show with the two twin brothers that had problems. And I wondered, because that show had such a nostalgia feel, and rewatching this, I wonder how much Ben Stiller actually influenced any of Kyle Mooney from SNL's comedy. So in all, I think Cable Guy was still a really interesting watch. It definitely paints a different picture the older it is, but also it's interesting to see what they were talking about, because it literally in that film talks about how the superhighway will converge and will all be part of the internet and all that. So it's like almost a little bit ahead of its time for how much it pushes forward with its thinking on that. But I do like the message that it's the idea of like shutting it off, and like at the end, people are picking up books because he destroys the cable. A few of the scenes that I really enjoy, I like the medieval times site because it's just funny. The fact that they got pulled into medieval times, the dinner theater show, to be knights, and they're sitting bashing on each other. I love when he goes into the whole Kirk persona, right? So that there and all, I think this really showcased Jim Carrey in a different way that he was able to play versus playing kind of always that nice guy, goofy. Instead, he was a bit more crazy, because almost every comedian at some point has their dark phase when they play a certain character or style of character for so long, and they suddenly go a little bit darker. Robin Williams did it, and you see a few more doing it, or dramatic phase, like Adam Sandler went the dramatic route. So, but the Cable Guy, I know Katie, she liked it, but she wasn't really 100% on it. So, but that would be a good RADnesia moment for me, because I remember watching that and being uncomfortable with it. So from that, we checked out Friday. That's another RADnesia for me. It was brand new for Katie, and I think that was hilarious, because here I was like thinking it would be a RADnesia, and she's like legitimately like, "No, Mike, this is brand new." So we're watching it, and when gets to that point where he goes, "Bye, Felicia," suddenly that little light bulb hit. And then later on, when they do the damn and the whole, she thought of the gift too. So really out of it, Katie took that she saw the cultural significance, like that whole, like, this is so solidified in pop culture, like modern pop culture, that she didn't realize, she didn't know where those came from. We talked later on about it, about how much it really does feel more like a play than a film. And that's interesting to me to see that, and to see the blocking that's used, because for the most part, everything takes place on the front porch, except for a few external areas. And I think that would be a film that could be adapted into a play that would go very well. Most of everything works really well in it. I do get a kick out of the movie because it's like a cultural, like, it's a slice of life. It's a moment in time that's captured from the 90s, right? And we were talking about it, about how much the realization that I always wondered why people always thought I was like stoned all the time. And I think about some of the movies that I enjoy, or some of the things. And this is one of those ones where I remember watching Friday quite a bit. I mean, like, rewatching it now after not watching it for many years and going, oh, that could be why. That could be why. Katie talked about how much she liked Chris Tucker in the film, and she's curious about finding some more Chris Tucker films that she remembers liking, like, say, Rush Hour, or when he was in The Fifth Element, because she's like, I got a kick out of his delivery and all that. So I think we might have a bit of a more of a Chris Tucker RADnesia coming down the pipeline. But yeah, watch Friday again. Watch Friday and see how everything unfolds as it's set up more as a play. And I think, that's something that really stands out for it, which made it kind of simplistic. I really do like whenever there's scenes Chris Tucker's talking about from they're like reminiscing scenes or their past scenes. It's all black and white, and it's shot differently than the rest of the film. That really was a stylized choice that I really thought was cool. I think with this too, it's kind of like Friday and Clerks. They were all from an era that was like directors and writers coming out and coming up with new things, and those are two that, like, that's a film that stands out to me. Of we don't see that kind of thing anymore. As much as I do like pretty kind of big budget Hollywood movies, sometimes the simplicity of a story can be told so easily without having to be super glossy. So go check out Friday. Maybe go watch it on Friday and get high. No, don't. You don't have to. Just watch Friday. It's a film that definitely needs to like be there and stand on its own. The sequels weren't really my thing. I didn't really like the sequels, and I probably won't RADnesia the sequels, because the original was the mainstay. Then the other night we needed to laugh still, because with Katie feeling down and all that, with their sickness and all that, we opened up The 40-Year-Old Virgin. So this is kind of like Judd Apatow's like big like directorial debut, not debut, but like success, I guess. He had produced and wrote on other things all these years, but like when he worked with Steve Carell on this here, it opened up a whole new world. And within the film, you have Paul Rudd, and you've got Jonah Hill, and you've got Seth Rogen, Leslie Mann, and Elizabeth Banks. So like there's that whole crew, that Apatow crew, showing up in this. The 40-year-old virgin, he's a 40-year-old virgin, works at a stereo store, electronic store, and his buddies find out that he's a virgin and they decide that they need to de-virginize him. I was really curious to RADnesia this, and this is Katie's only RADnesia on here. Just for the fact that, it's going to be 20 years old soon. It's like 3 years away from being 20 years old. I don't know, 5 years away. 3, 5. It's getting close to being, a 20-year-old film. So that's kind of something that stands out because there's a lot of films that I think can be good when you watch them. And like RADnesia, are they still as good? So looking back, like say Cable Guy, it's more awkward than I remember it being. It's more cringy. There's some scenes that are like on point funny, but for the most part, it's kind of cringy. And it's definitely aged in the way that it's shot. Friday, you could feel its age. But you could also see the simplicity of it in a different light. Like I saw more of that idea watching it this time, seeing more of the play and seeing more of the fact that it was just a slice of life versus a big grand story that was going anywhere or action piece. So how would 40-Year-Old Virgin stack up after all these years? Because it's been, probably 10 years since I've watched this film. I still found it funny. A few of the jokes didn't land. Some of the stuff pushed a little long. The whole like I know how you're gay because that was a bit long and what I didn't find that funny. But there was a lot of stuff in there that was pretty hilarious still, and we both came out of it saying, I still laughed. It still was a pretty good time for something that was aging. And coming out of a crew that have pushed boundaries on things, it was nice to see. One thing Katie did note was that she wasn't a big fan, which was kind of cool for her to say. Wasn't a super big fan on the whole, like, well, you got to sell your toys to make money and erase that side of you to fit in. And that was almost the borderline end of it of like, well, to fit in and to become a man or to become a grown up, you need to get rid of a portion of you. So that there I thought was an interesting switch to see from her to say that too. Because, well, literally just talked about going and buying toys this past weekend. So, I think for me, the stuff that was funnier was more of like the commentary on the bikes and all that. And the thing I liked the most about it, honestly, was the ending. I liked the ending the most. It was the whole Age of Aquarius. And like, why can't more movies end like that? Because the placement of that when she's all happy after they finally have sex and she asks him and he breaks out into song and it just goes into the end credits and that's the end and we're having the Age of Aquarius. And I really think that was a great way to end it because it was funny and weird. And, yeah. So Katie enjoyed it as well. She felt like she was surprised at how well it stood up. Her biggest gripe was, though, that he sold so much of the stuff that was his. They easily could have sold a bunch of stuff and still, because they got $500,000, but probably could have still kept some things. So, yeah, so that was this week. I know it's not nearly exciting just to have just one of us sit here and blabble on about what we thought about movies. But out of them all, Katie recommends going and watching The 40-Year-Old Virgin. That was her favorite to rewatch. Well, favorite because it was a rewatch, so there was memories there. Myself, I almost say go watch Friday. Just because of its cultural impact within it. So going forward, what are we doing? We're hoping season 5 comes back strong for you all. Please like, share, comment, all that shit we got to ask you because it's our due diligence because we want to keep going. We want to see our numbers continue and go up. Because without listeners like you, without you beautiful people letting us come inside your ears, we can't keep going. So we're looking forward to the next week. I'm hoping we can get a Clerks trilogy RADnesia going on, especially with the Clerks movie hitting. And then we're going to be stepping into the spooky season. So hopefully we hit some horror movies and some good, delightful, spooky things for y'all. So thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you all have a very awesome day. And remember, stay rad, dudes.